Competition is a fundamental aspect of all sports. People competing against people, teams competing against teams, and in some rare opportunities, leagues competing against other leagues. The XFL and the NFL for football, the ABA and the NBA for basketball, and for hockey, that was the World Hockey Association. The World Hockey Association was founded in 1971 by Dennis Murphy and Gary Davidson. The pair had previously been the founders of the American Basketball Association, so you could expect some competition from them. They traveled across North America recruiting franchise owners, and by September 1971 had announced that the league would begin in 1972 with 10 teams, each having paid $25,000 for their franchise. In November 1971, 12 teams were originally announced. They include teams such as the Miami Screaming Eagles, the Los Angeles Aces, the Chicago Cougars, and the New York Raiders. Two of the original 12 teams had moved before the first season even started. The Dayton Arrows became the Houston Aeros, and the San Francisco Sharks became the Quebec Nordiques. The Calgary Broncos and the Screaming Eagles folded outright, replaced by the Philadelphia Blazers and the Cleveland Crusaders. The average NHL salary in 1972 was $25,000, the lowest of the four major sports. While players were bounded by their reserve clause, a clause in every player's contract that automatically extended a player's contract by 1 year when it expired, tying them to their team for the life of their career. In October 1972, the World Hockey Association announced that it would not use the reserve clause. The WHA also promised much higher salaries than the NHL offered, and by the time the league had began play, it lured 67 former NHL players to its league, including Gary Shevers, Derek Sanderson, and J.C. Tremblay. The biggest name signed was former Chicago Blackhawks star Bobby Hull, who agreed to a 5-year, $1 million contract. He told reporters that he would only move to the World Hockey Association for $1 million. It was both intended by Hull and taken by his audience to be a joke, since $1 million at that time was considered to be a ridiculous amount of money for a hockey player. But the Winnipeg Jets offered Hull a 5-year, $1 million contract with a $1 million signing bonus. The WHA officially made its debut on October 11, 1972 at the Ottawa Civic Centre, when the Alberta Oilers defeated the Ottawa Nationals 7-4. Although the quality of hockey was predictably below that of the NHL, the World Hockey Association indeed made stars out of many players that had little to no playing time in the NHL. The New England Whalers eventually won the World Hockey Association's inaugural championship, later renamed the Avco World Trophy when the Avco Financial Service Corporation became the main sponsor. However, the trophy had not yet been completed, and the Whalers skated their divisional championship trophy around the ice surface, much to the embarrassment of the World Hockey Association offices. By 1976, it had become pretty obvious that many of the WHA's franchises were teetering on the verge of financial collapse. Between the NHL and the WHA, there were 32 teams, which had badly strained the professional hockey talent pool. WHA teams were bidding left, right, and center, trying to get contracts with big-time NHL players, wiping them clean of money. Another heavy factor in the fall of the WHA was location. A lot of the teams within the WHA had NHL counterparts in their city, and most fans bought tickets to the more extravagant NHL games than the simple WHA games. 1977 was the first time merger discussions were held. The WHA had many of their teams applying to become a part of the NHL, but the league wouldn't have any of that. The original deal had Houston, Cincinnati, Winnipeg, New England, Quebec, and Edmonton attempting to join, but again, that was declined. Another proposal had the Edmonton Oilers and the New England Whalers moving to the NHL, with the Winnipeg Jets following a year later, but that was also not accepted by the NHL. The final 2 seasons of the WHA saw the debut of many superstars, some of whom became hockey legends in the NHL, including Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, and Mike Gardner. By the end of the 1979 season, only 6 teams remained. Because of financial troubles and difficulty with payrolls, the WHA finally came to an agreement with the NHL in early 1979. The deal had 4 WHA teams, the Edmonton Oilers, New England Whalers, Quebec Nordiques, and Winnipeg Jets joining the NHL. The NHL treated the new team arrivals as an expansion, not a merger. While the new teams were allowed to stock their roster with an expansion draft, NHL teams were allowed to reclaim the players who had jumped ship to the WHA. WHA teams were allowed to protect 2 goaltenders and 2 skaters to keep their roster from being completely stripped clean by the NHL teams, which is how Edmonton was able to keep Wayne Gretzky around. The agreement officially took effect on June 22, 1979. On that day, the WHA folded, and the NHL formally granted expansion franchises to Edmonton, Hartford, Quebec City, and Winnipeg. Right from the start, the league was plagued with difficulties. Many teams found themselves in financial difficulty, folding, or moving from one city to another. But no matter what, the World Hockey Association holds a legacy that many people still hold dear to their hearts. For a lot of people, the NHL was something that was great, but for a lot of other people, the World Hockey Association was greater. The nostalgia behind some of the teams that would eventually move to the NHL is something that's great. We wouldn't have great players like Wayne Gretzky if it wasn't for the World Hockey Association, so I think that's an aspect we have to look at. Even in Carolina, they have a Hartford Whalers night where they dress up wearing Hartford Whaler jerseys because they're not forgetting their past, and no one's forgetting about the World Hockey Association. In closing, I don't think anybody's ever going to forget about the World Hockey Association. And there were a lot of problems, so I don't see it coming back anytime soon, but no matter what, they were a great league for what they offered to a lot of people. For many, it was their first time ever being able to watch hockey, and for a lot of people, it was the first time they ever got to witness some of their favorite players on the ice. So I applaud you, World Hockey Association, for creating all those memories and nostalgia for the hockey fans out there, new and old. Anyways, that's the history of the World Hockey Association. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for future videos. I have an Instagram, which you guys can find the link for down below. I'm trying to post more often, so if you want to get more up-to-date with posts and videos that are coming in the future, be sure to follow me down there. Anyways, I'll see you guys when I see you guys.